exaggeration, but does this mean
the issues and the policies that we put forward? We campaigned in 2015 to win the leadership, as I said, on economic issues, on international policies. And during my time as leader of the party, myself and this very big team we had around us developed a whole raft of new policies. Labour had moved itself into a position where, for example, they would sometimes indulge in the most awful language against people who are poor and rely on benefits from our own government, Department of Work and Pensions. And so we changed the language on that. We changed the whole narrative on economic strategy, one of investment, of redistribution of power and wealth, and of taxing the very wealthiest at a considerably higher level. But we also changed the debate on environment policies, on energy policies, and on international policies. And in the 2017 election, we started off from a very low base. Labour was given, I think, 24% in the poll, had 4 years of unremitting attacks from very, very powerful right-wing dominated media in our society. And I'd been challenged once as leader in 2016. And so it was a complicated election, but environmentally sustainable industrial revolution. And that is what we developed. And I was very proud of the work that was done by my team, particularly Rebecca Long-Bailey, in developing an alternative green agenda, which was supported and popular. That has got to be the way forward. But that is what we developed. And I was very proud of the work that was done by my team, particularly Rebecca Long-Bailey, in developing an alternative green agenda, which was supported and popular. That has got to be the way forward. But we cannot deal with the world's environment if we continue at the same time to pursue free market economics and the politics of greed, which makes that minority impossibly wealthier at the expense of the poor majority. You cannot have both, environmental sustainability and inequality. President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador won't mind me retailing this story to you. On the day before he took the presidency of Mexico, I traveled with him in a car and then on the plane to Mexico City. And we're traveling in the car and going through the countryside, and I'm admiring the countryside, expressing some disappointment at palm oil plantations and so on. And then I said to him, Andres Manuel, when you're in government, and hopefully we're in government, what's the best way we can work together and support each other? And he said, Jeremy, your National Health Service is an example we'd love to follow, because our National Health Service is healthcare free at the point of need for everybody without any regard to their wealth, poverty, or situation. Everybody. It has been undermined. Some of it has been put out to private contract and privatized, but the principle is still there. And it was a Labour principle of the 1945 to 51 Labour government. It was Aaron Bevan, an ex-miner, who was the health minister who brought it in, still there. And it was a Labour principle of the 1945 to 51 Labour government. It was Aaron Bevan, an ex-miner, who was the health minister who brought it in. And it's our proudest achievement. It's the most civilized thing about our country, and I'm very proud of it. And we will always defend our NHS. And it's our NHS that has got us through this COVID crisis so far, but it's still under threat. And I think the example, and the WHO actually accepts the principles of our NHS, not an insurance-based system, not a pay-as-you-go system, free at the point of need, paid for through taxation. In some ways, the Cardenas legacy in Mexico, which laid the foundations of the ideas of fair ownership of land, the ideas of rights within the Constitution. And in the case of Mexico, crucially, the ownership of the natural resources by the public in Mexico. They were huge, huge reforms. But every is discussions with friends in the political parties, in the trade unions, and so on, about the need to develop a health service, and above all, a form of social security for the poorest people in Mexico. I know there is the support for older people in Mexico City, and I think it's quite humbling when you see people getting there and thanking AMLO for them from his time as mayor of Mexico City. But I'm looking forward to greater equality in Mexico as well. Yeah, I love Mexico, and I'm very hopeful for the future. And having observed the outcome of the elections when AMLO was not elected in 2006 and 2012, and that huge outpouring on the streets of Mexico City and elsewhere at those results, and then being present when he was inaugurated as president. And I was quite moved when he was welcomed as president by the representatives of the indigenous people of Mexico. That had never happened before with any previous president. And so I'm hopeful for Mexico, and I'm hopeful for the future of Mexico. And I think it's a very, very important position that you have AMLO and Marcelo Ebrard as being very prominent leading figures in the government who are able to play an important part on the world stage. Now, globally, there have been huge Germany and other Europe, in Ecuador, in Chile, in Argentina, in Venezuela, and so on, where there's been huge international pressure put on governments trying to do progressive things. And yes, I've been in Portugal, and I've spoken at length with friends in the Portuguese Socialist Party and their left coalition government and what they've achieved. And I've done the same with people in Spain. And I think there are hopeful signs there. And also in Brazil, I've had meetings with Dilma and with Lula on the way in which things can go forward in Brazil. So I don't want you to ever write off the experience of the last couple of decades, which has been one of this huge growth of a conscious, socialist-led ideas about environment, redistribution of wealth, and control in our lives. But this is a very serious time. Now, I remember staying with Laura's family, meeting in both 2006 and in 2012. And I remember I was quite tired. I said, "Oh, I'm ready to go to bed." They said, "No, we've got to stay up." Why? So, because AMLO is on at midnight. Because AMLO had to buy television time in the middle of the night in order to get a message across. I have admiration for his daily press conferences. And when he told me he was going to do daily press conferences, I said, "Are you really sure about this? Do you really want to expose yourself to the hassle of being hounded by the media at 7 o'clock every morning?" And he said, "No, it's the only way, because if it's done live, it's very hard to edit it and to censor it." I admire him for that, and I admire what he's doing. Because on the left, we've got to change our ways in how we communicate.